In a nation fueled by deadlines and disruption, the toll of a year lived at full speed is unmistakable. Month after month, people grind through overloaded days, expanding duties, and a strain that just keeps rising. Energy is fading, sleep doesn't restore like it should, and burnout is becoming the default. This isn't a personal flaw, it's an epidemic. And the world keeps pushing the same unhelpful fixes. More stimulation, more productivity, more noise. None of it brings real restoration. This town hall calls for a different ending to the year. A reset grounded in truth, rhythm, design, not the frantic pace that has taken over modern life. Welcome to the Great Reset God's Way. 3 leaders step forward with clarity and direction for those who want renewal, not another cycle of exhaustion. Dr. J. Flottmann, physician and Air Force pilot, the first pilot physician to fly the F-22 Raptor. He understands what extreme pressure does to the human body and how to rebuild strength with precision and discipline. Bishop Leon Benjamin, pastor, Navy veteran, and Christian educator. For over 2 decades, he has helped families regain direction, conviction, and spiritual stability in times of strain and uncertainty. Dr. Simone Gold, physician, attorney, and founder of GoldCare, a national voice who pushed back against a system that drains people instead of restoring them. She brings order to issues the system intentionally makes chaotic, cutting through the confusion with precision. Together, they uncover how constant demands reshaped everyday living, pushing people away from steady foundations and the steady pattern God established. And now, the fallout from that drift is undeniable, setting the stage for the correction ahead. GoldCare, built for you, powered by freedom, trusted by thousands.
Welcome to GoldCare Medical Town Hall, and thank you so much for being here. Joining us tonight is Dr. J. Flottmann. He's the world's first fighter pilot physician to have flown the F-22. Dr. Flottmann is dedicated to improving national health through a unique lens of high performance and resource strategy. Tonight, he will share his powerful F4 principle, fingers, forks, feet, and faith, demonstrating practical strategies to radically change your health and achieve total renewal. Also with us tonight is Bishop Leon Benjamin. Ordained by Bishop T.D. Lakes, Bishop Benjamin is the founder of New Life Harvest Church and a dedicated spiritual voice addressing the challenges of this age. He provides crucial insights on how faith restores what fear destroys, offers the essential spiritual reset needed to align your life with God's design and achieve true physical and emotional restoration. Our moderator tonight is Dr. Simone Gold, founder and CEO of GoldCare Health and Wellness. Are you running on empty? Exhaustion, stress overload, and emotional burnout are not personal failures. They are the epidemic of exhaustion, caused by a modern rhythm of constant fear and stimulation that has broken our natural rhythms of rest and repair. We will reveal the power of pause, teaching you that rest is the foundational medicine for true healing and spiritual restoration. Finally, you'll receive the blueprint for balance, practical steps from the GoldCare model to address root causes, empowering a sustainable life of continual renewal aligned with God's design. This is the essential conversation for lasting vitality. Conversations like you'll hear tonight happen every day inside the GoldCare community. We've learned that the best way to get the most out of your subscription is a free appointment with our nursing team. And while this isn't traditional medical care, it's an opportunity to meet our team and learn how you can get the most out of your subscription. All right, let's get started. Now it's my pleasure to introduce our moderator, Dr. Simone Gold.
Hello, everybody. So this is an interesting topic for these times that we're living in. I think everybody who's paying attention right now, who's on this webinar or town hall, really has their own version of being overloaded, exhausted, and just having too much on your plate. And I'm reminded of something that I learned a long time ago. I think I read this 20 or 30 years ago. And it was something like there's more information in a single Sunday edition of the New York Times than people 200 years ago experienced in their entire lifetime. That we're getting flooded with so much information that it exceeded, that on a daily basis, it could exceed what the average person inputted over their entire life. And I want to start with that because it really isn't a failure in you that you feel overloaded or exhausted, and that maybe life is out of balance. It's because there really is a lot more coming at us humans than I think we were ever really designed to do. And that means really we have to take specific steps to reduce the amount of input that's coming into our lives. I have been doing this, I think, almost out of habit, probably for 10 or 15 years, because I had two careers, medicine and law, and I love to read, and I'm a parent. I think I very quickly learned that I actually had to limit the number of inputs that I had coming into my life, or I just couldn't manage my life. There was just too much going on. And that kind of approach has actually continued to inform me to this day. So there are definitely different strategies that you can do to kind of reduce the amount of exhaustion that we have in our life. And the area that I like to pay attention to the most, as opposed to our other two guests tonight, is really kind of reducing the amount of input that comes into us. But this subject is important enough for us to do a town hall on, because it affects your bodily health, affects your spiritual health, and the answers are both in the physical and in the spiritual, or the non-physical, I should say. So we're going to have a great conversation tonight, and I think I'd like to start with Dr. Flottmann, because I've been very impressed with Dr. Flottmann since the beginning, because one of the areas that he really concentrates on is peak performance among people. What we can expect, or what we should strive for, from the athlete down to an ordinary person who's striving to have their best physical health. So it seems to me there's no better place to start than really kind of understanding or getting a grip on what the human body is supposed to manage in terms of, what's too much and what's okay. So Dr. Flottmann, what does this kind of subject mean to you? Is this something that you see a lot of in your practice? Is this a common complaint that people have? Why don't we just start there?
Well, the common complaint that I think hits the nail on the head is most oftentimes anxiety and tired, fatigued. Those are the most common complaints I hear from clients. But just a little bit like you, I have a backstory that kind of fills that whole, reason for me being where I am today. My cousin, when I was a kid, I played football, so I was an athlete growing up. But I also excelled at school. And I remember him telling me, you can't do both. And I think that theme kind of existed through the course of my life. I went to college, became a doctor, went in the Air Force, got exposed to flying, liked that so much that I was like, hey, can you send me to pilot training? And I heard it over and over and over again. You can't do both. So I think what you just said reminded me that I think we're all, especially in this country, chronically overworked. We're always looking for the next thing. And I think people out there are in a state of exhaustion, number one, because they're chronically overworked, especially in this country because of the financial pressures that we might have and just the burdens that we put on ourselves. You kind of listed them for all of us. But for me in the clinic, I do a lot of different things, right? And what I see a lot as a complaint has to do with performance. The way that I think about performance is it doesn't really necessarily mean, hey, I can lift more weights or I can run faster. It may just be, I'd like to be a better parent. I'd like to be a better X, whatever that job may be. I'd like to be a better listener. I'd like to be a better husband. I'd like to be a better wife. How can I do those things? Well, let's take, a medical approach to it. And I try to start very fundamentally. So I think that's one of the things that GoldCare really kind of focuses on that's different than maybe your standard brick and mortar clinic that you go into. Because you and I both know when we go to the urgent care for a problem, it's get in, get out, and try to get as many in as you can, because it's a revolving door to meet numbers. That's different. That is definitely not what we do here at GoldCare. I hope that kind of helps generate some idea of what I see typically. I mean, I do get the common colds, sinus infections, but a lot of times people have symptoms that mask everything else that's going on underneath. And I think what we can do in GoldCare is just peel back the onion a little bit, ask questions, find out what it is that you're doing on a daily basis that we were intended to do, right? I think we were intended to move. I think we were intended to sleep. I think we were intended to eat the right food that is whole food. I think we were intended to meditate on what's important to us, have a spiritual foundation of faith that grounds us to something beyond ourselves. So that's kind of hopefully how I approach things. Does that answer your question?
Sorry.
That's okay. I got a countdown going, so I want to make sure that I respect everybody's time.
Everyone, I'm having a little bit of technical difficulties. Bishop Benjamin, back at you and I'll fix it.
I don't think Bishop Benjamin heard that. She passed it over to you.
I had some technical difficulties. If I could ask
there you
Bishop
go.
Benjamin to take over, please, for a moment, and I'll be back.
Oh, yes. Look, I really believe that along with the physical aspect, we have to also, and this is what I thank God for GoldCare, we include the spiritual aspect, the ability to sometimes, I call it see beyond sight, which is what I call faith. And being able to have that that understanding that is right and tangent with the physical aspect of who we are as human beings. Some things you just can't figure out right away, and sometimes you just can't see it right away. There's a scripture here in Isaiah 40 where it talks about he giveth power to the faint, and to them that have no might, he increaseth strength. So where's this power coming from? Well, it's not coming from the physical realm. Okay. Where's this strength coming from? It's not coming from the physical realm. It's coming from the spiritual realm. And so at GoldCare, when we allow the faith element to go alongside of what we call care, wellness, health, it brings sort of a balance sometimes that, hey, if you sometimes if you can't see it, right, what you don't see ain't broke, and so sometimes it doesn't get fixed because you can't see it. But with faith, sometimes things come from out of another place. In this case, power and strength. It says here, even the youth shall faint and be weary, and the young men shall utterly fall. But they that wait on the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up on with wings as eagles. They shall run and not be weary, and they shall walk and not faint. Wait a minute. How are you getting this done? And I don't want to exclude the physical well-being and just focus on the spiritual well-being. I think as humans, we need it all. So thank God for GoldCare. We're allowed to work on the physical aspect, but also include the faith aspect. So I'm always looking sometimes when I'm feeling down, feeling low. I said, Lord, I need your help right now. So I'm not ashamed to call on that. And it's good to have a balanced wellness plan, healthcare plan that includes both. So thank you, Dr. Gold, for the question.
Yes, one of the things, one of the reasons we built GoldCare is because so many things are wrong with the current model. And, a big foundational thing that's wrong is that we doctors have really been trained over really my lifetime, over the last 40 years, let's say, to just concentrate really on isolated issues, right? So it's gotten more and more narrow. We went in my father's day, it was really about the whole person. The doctor, for example, knew the patient, they were really neighbors usually. Oftentimes the doctor did house calls. So even in that very non-medical setting, they could see the person as a whole person. So that was just how medicine was always done. And then starting in the 70s or really the 80s, it really radically changed. And then went into a system where it was just a patient in front of you. So it was isolated as just a patient, but it got even worse, right? Because back then the doctor would at least see the patient, but they'd see the whole patient. And then over the 90s and 2000s, we got away from even a doctor seeing a whole patient. We would just have a doctor see a little piece of a patient, just the heart disease, or just the stomach system, or just, the orthopedist who saw you for your broken leg. It became very fractured. And then really even worse from the human perspective was what we started to do to hospital patients. It turned out that the powers that be believe that, and there might be some truth to this, that it's less expensive to treat people in the hospital with people who specialize in hospital care. It's a mixed bag, but that is what the data shows. I argue with it for several reasons. But what happened then is that the doctor who knew you on the outside wasn't even involved with you at your most critical moment. And during the hospital process, so many decisions get made that really affect you later, or that are really kind of big, huge decisions, and they're being really made in isolation or separate from how you live your life as a person. So just that evolution from, we used to see people as a whole person, a neighbor, a friend, a colleague who had a child and a spouse. Then we just went to a patient, and then we just went to an organ system. And then we went to, well, let's not even know them when they're at their most critical moment. So I'm just sharing with people that is really where medicine has gone. There's many things that GoldCare does differently, but one of the fundamental things we do differently is we reject that the sum of a person is simply the body part that the doctor is supposed to treat, right? We see examples of this all the time. We see the cardiologist, me as an ER doctor, we would often see a patient who was on this medicine because some other doctor didn't know they were on that medicine. And then you'd have to ask that other doctor, can I take you off this medicine? I want to do this medicine. I mean, it's gotten so fragmented that you can imagine that we're not getting into the spirituality at all, because we're barely even getting into a whole one body, let alone getting into the spirit. Now, why are we focused on this as one of the things we do differently at GoldCare? We're focused on this because it's pretty difficult, if not impossible, to really get well and healthy if you don't engage the person as an entire being. And that certainly includes your mind. And it goes in both directions. It goes in the direction that your mind affects how your body feels, and your body affects how your mind feels, and back and forth. And your mind is very much controlled, or is contributed to by your spiritual well-being. So most of the things that we deal with in human medicine are very linked to our thoughts and feelings and the spiritual overtones of what's going on. And that's why GoldCare has a strong spiritual basis. We don't force it on anybody, but we think it's negligent for doctors to leave that out. And I just wanted to share with you that we come from a perspective, a very holistic perspective. And I know that Dr. Flottmann, I saw him nodding a lot, and he's had the same experiences I have as a doctor, that we just don't even count this as a feature. But you and I know, right, Dr. Flottmann, that there's study after study that shows that that people who are connected spiritually, they do better, they heal faster. We have all kinds of data on that. I don't know if that's a subject you'd like to mention, but that's always interested me.
Well, it's so funny because you mentioned your training, and I can concur. When we went to learn how to do a physical exam, we're going to do a focused physical exam. The patient comes in with a specific chief complaint. We're going to target our exam on that specific problem. And then, oh, by the way, we only have 15 minutes to do that, right? So we can meet our RVU counters so that the insurance companies can pay the clinic. And it goes on and on. But in truth, what we do at GoldCare is we actually get to know the patients. Like, I have repeat customers, and I call them clients. I don't call them patients necessarily, because they're associates that we interact with. We're just people. We just happen to be mechanics that work on the human, and we're just like you. We have problems. You have problems. We talk about those problems because those problems can affect how we feel, what we do, how we perform. And I think you're absolutely 100% right. Community is one of the prescriptions that, our faith has given us. God told us, hey, we're going to share in the burdens as a community, and have, the medical training that we have now. And you just hit the other important part. If you ever go to the hospital, your doctor may not ever see you until you get out. and the hospitalist may not know what's going on. So those two doctors don't necessarily talk. So this medicine may interact with this medicine. Oh, they don't talk to each other, the doctors that prescribe them. So that's what makes us different. We're a community of people that have similar foundational beliefs, in my opinion. That's why GoldCare was started. That's why I met you. That's why we interacted early before GoldCare was a thing,
Right.
because we had the same thoughts and beliefs. And I think that your call to action was to create GoldCare, and I'm just
Right.
happy to be part of it.
Exactly. So I'm going to turn it back to Drew now for just a moment, but I just wanted to make sure everybody understood that we have lots of doctors at GoldCare that understand that you can't be your maximum health and vitality and do the good work that you put on this planet Earth to do unless it's all well and it's all working well together. And that the more we've had doctors just fragmented and caring about this one little thing, and we pretend that that one little thing is the thing that matters to give you a healthy life, it's inaccurate, it's not true, and GoldCare does not approach it like that. Back to you, Drew.
Thanks, Dr. Gold. I love the direction of this conversation, and I love what Dr. Flottmann said about whole healthcare. It really is so critical that we understand that, yes, there is the physical health side of things, but there's also the spiritual health side, and what you've added so far, Bishop Benjamin, has been just wonderful as well. I'd like to remind you guys to please retweet this live stream. There's a link in the title of tonight's webinar that you can do that, and you can learn more about GoldCare there too. Let's keep the conversation going. Back to you, Dr. Gold.
So just for fun, let's make this kind of personal, because it's always like fun for the audience, right? To like just, really just get to know people. So you, Dr. Flottmann, I actually find you pretty inspirational because, we've met and we've talked a lot, and you really do practice what you preach. I mean, you lead a super healthy lifestyle. You've got like a very healthy, growing family. And you really, I do think you are a role model for living healthily. So this next little segment is, what do you do to pause or to recharge or to keep yourself operating at that highest level? I mean, you've got all this medical knowledge, all this training, a professional interest in performing at your best, and then you have a full family life, right? So this requires balance. Like, how do you manage that? Like, how do you, yeah.
If you ask my wife, I don't manage it very well. Right. And, I think Bishop Benjamin said it well. If we don't give ourselves time to pause and reflect, then we're really missing out on the true nature of our faith. I'm a Christian. I don't have any problem saying that. And I believe that it was written that way. And I think that to answer your question best, you would really have to say, Candace, that's my wife, how does Jay manage it? Because she'll say, no, he doesn't. But for me, it's very simple. And I talk about it, and I wrote about it when I was in the Air Force. Feet, fingers, forks, and faith. Those are so basic. I move my feet. So at least 3 to 4 times, maybe 5 times a week, I'm doing something active. And for me, that's 3 days a week in the gym. As we get older, and yes, we will all get older, that becomes harder. So strength training, resistance training is paramount for men and women. And fingers, what kind of habits do you have? Do you drink alcohol? Do you smoke? Do you have candies all over the house? Those are simple things you can change to maximize your health. Forks, that's the biggest one that our country, I think, has made a big mistake on. And we could probably talk about that on a whole other podcast. But the recommendations we got in the 70s to cut fat out just allowed sugar to come back in. And that has just disrupted our whole body's metabolism community-wide. Type 2 diabetes up, obesity up, cancer up, all chronic diseases up. That costs the country a mega amount of money. And oh, by the way, that influences national security because that budget is all part of the same pot. And that was my focus when I was in the Air Force. So the last one, I'm just going to hand over to Bishop Benjamin because faith is that's his specialty. It's not mine, but I believe that that's the most important part of my life.
I love it.
Wow.
I just, Bishop Benjamin, back at you. I just want to say that, you teach the spirituality class, the faith class on Wednesdays, and I do think it's still our most popular class. So I invite everybody to come join your class Wednesdays. Thank you.
Yeah, I was just thinking about it. I just got back from Israel and seeing the Holy Land. And Dr. Gold, we just love you because when we do those classes, I talk from the Old Testament, sometimes New Testament, and I just think about Dr. Gold every time I'm teaching because, you know, what medical system includes Bible study? And so it's amazing because we in John 5 and 8 talking about the man that was at the pool.
Oh no. Oh no, I can't substitute for Bishop Benjamin, but until he comes back, I just want to share with you. So he does a class every Wednesday, 9 a.m., I think, or it's either 9 or 10 a.m. And it's really a treat. He's an exceptional speaker. And we do tie in the medical and the spirituality. And I will speak, Bishop Benjamin, of course, speaks from his faith, and so does Jay Flottmann from his, but I'm Jewish.
I got disconnected. But I was talking about how the miracle happened by the pool and a body of water. We know how much we need water, but in this case, the man didn't drink the water. He just went into to this miracle where it says they wouldn't put him in the pool, and Jesus said, "You don't need the pool, just get up and walk." and so this level of faith where what we do at GoldCare, you think you might need something, but you might need something else. And this is the miracle of faith. He didn't really need to jump into the pool. He just needed to act out another principle in his brain, which is get up, not jump in. And we have all types of doctors here at GoldCare. And Dr. Gold allows the variety from wellness to naturopath to the basic one. If you need a pill, take a pill. If you need surgery, take surgery. But we also have naturopathic. We have the guy that needs the pool, and we have help the guy that doesn't need the pool. Okay, exactly. And we can help both. And that's what I love here at GoldCare. People think miracles are uncommon. But in other places, miracles happen every day, depending on what you need. And when you need it a lot, then it's frequent. When you don't need it a lot, it's infrequent. So how would you like it to have a healthcare system where you have the combination of both? Whether you need it a lot or you need it infrequently, it's available. And that's what I like about GoldCare with the variety of practitioners, of healthcare providers.
Right. I mean, we really come from the perspective that everyone is really an individual made really, we all believe made in God's image. But the important point is you're an individual with sovereignty over yourself. And so we offer everything, right? That's why naturopathic and allopathic medical, they're both here. We're not ideological about what you choose. We just want to provide you really great information that you can choose that's best for your life. And our role is to be experts to share with you. So the reason we're focusing tonight on the holistic approach is because you've been misled by doctors to believe that the faith component or the spirituality component is irrelevant, wholly irrelevant to your health. And that is completely false. And by the way, from the mainstream medical journals, it's completely false. I mean, I've known that my whole life. I mean, you can look at journal article after journal article, people who pray, live happier lives, people are more spiritually connected, live happier lives. They heal better, they heal more quickly. There's no question that the science actually supports this. At the same time, we really kind of deny it in our daily life, partly because financially it's not set up to support it. This kind of stuff takes longer to really talk with people and get to know people. So it might not even be a nefarious reason. It might just be how the structure's set up. But that's really why we don't do it that way, because it's not matching the truth. The truth is that we both need physical health and we need spiritual wellness. We need both. It's false to say anything else, and we're all about the truth. And so I'll just speak for a couple of minutes about my faith. I tend to usually be the only Jewish person on, in the environment that I live in. So, but I want to share with you something that I don't know, Bishop Benjamin, if you do this, but Shabbat. So Shabbat is a gift it really should be a gift for all humanity. The 10 Commandments, God gave us Shabbat. Of course, the Jews follow that, but anyone can follow that. And our wonderful role model, Charlie Kirk, was about 3 years ago, I think, he went public that he said, I'm keeping Shabbat. And he didn't keep it to the degree that an Orthodox Jew kept it, but he kept it pretty seriously. For about 25 hours, he actually put the phone away. He only had a phone for an emergency. And like 4 people had the number, like his wife and maybe his pastor. But the concept of taking a step back, taking time where you are unreachable. Now, the principle of Shabbat from the Jewish perspective is you're not to create anything on that day. Meaning that what you are that day, that moment, it's enough. Standing still, however you are, by the time Friday night comes, is sufficient. It's enough. It's good enough. That really resonates with me because I'm a person who's always trying to achieve more, do more, do more, do more, achieve more, do more, do more. And the concept of sitting still to say, oh, where I am right now, it's enough, it's sufficient, is actually for a person like me very, very difficult. So it's God's way, though, of saying to me that if I keep running on that treadmill, I am my own modern version of a slave. That the point of humanity is to not run on a treadmill all the time. And sometimes it's to stop and to slow. And every single time I have a beautiful Shabbat dinner and I sit down and the phone is off and I'm talking to friends and family, it is life-changing every single time. So I'm here to share with you another thing the medical industrial complex won't tell you because there's no money to be made off of it, that you absolutely need to take a time every week. And why do I say every week? Because that's what God said. God said every week. That's why I'm saying it. I didn't make it up. But every week you have to take a period of time to pause. In the Jewish faith, it's 25 hours on Friday night. But whatever you choose, if you don't take that moment to pause and reflect, connect with the humans that are in your orbit, and to sit and to be enough with where you are really just a modern version of a slave, and that's not healthy for you. And again, right, Dr. Flottmann, it could be like high blood pressure, it could be strokes, it could be poor eating habits that lead to metabolic disease and diabetes, type 2, if we don't take care of how we feel. And I just wanted to share that with you and, your thoughts on taking a pause.
What exactly does that word mean? Is that the same as Sabbath? Are those
Sabbath. Shabbat is Hebrew for Sabbath.
Okay, that's good to know. See, I didn't know that.
So yes, I say Shabbat.
Bishop Benjamin probably knew that. I didn't know that, but I've heard that said so many times. And I'm like, okay, they keep saying this word. Is that dinner time? What does that mean? So I actually think that is fantastic. And it is, like you said, a command. I even wrote it down. And it says, I believe, in Genesis 2:2-3, and Exodus 20:8-11, and Mark 2:27. It's all about that pause. You have to take it. It's a command to rest. I am guilty that I do not do that very well. I'm just like you. And I think that's what we in this country especially have just grown up in. And maybe that's just something that we've lost in translation of success, right? We've lost that in our preparation of our kids. We've lost all of that. And I'm glad you mentioned Charlie Kirk, because I just watched just a video where he was talking specifically about that. He was asked, what makes your marriage foundation Christ-centered or faith-centered? And he said that very one thing. Thank you.
It's true, by the way. It's something that you do together with the people that you love, and you're slowing down and you're paying attention and you're present. When you remove the technology, back a long time ago it was TV, but now the phones are just like a television right there, right? So when you remove that technology, you are really paying attention to the humans around you. And that connection is incredibly important to people. And that slowing down is incredibly important to your own mental health and your own sense of well-being. So I just, Bishop Benjamin, do you take a pause every week? I mean, you're also a guy who's very, very busy. You travel a lot, you preach, you take care of a lot of people.
Yeah. Well, it's amazing because I just got back from Israel and we celebrated Shabbat. And for the first time I saw when electricity turned off. We were in Jerusalem. We went to the Wailing Wall. The families were all together. It's just amazing being together. And when I got back to U.S. Yesterday, Sunday, I said, we got to do this. Just because it's just, slowing down. Of course, we do Sabbath on Sundays. So whatever day we take Sabbath, whether it be Friday, but I take my family out. We all sit around the table and we talk about stuff like how things going. Now my kids are all older. I mean, I'm married 34 years now, and my kids are grown. So we take Sunday, we are going out to eat, and we're going to sit down and we're going to talk about how is your life? How are things going? So I try to do it, but I'm like you, Dr. Gold. Sometimes you get on that rat race and you're on that treadmill, going. You got to remind yourself to take a pause. So thank you so much for reminding us, that we got to take that pause.
So Dr. Flottmann, like, I think you and I should talk a little bit for people because, I think people know intuitively that it's good. And, when they've taken this pause in their life, they're like, yeah, I do. I feel recharged. But I really want to impress. I want to have a couple of doctors impress for people that this actually really matters. I mean, in terms of one of the obvious things I can think of is metabolic disease. We're finding out more and more every year, right? Metabolic disease is, essentially from eating poorly, getting a little heavy, not moving like your feet, like you said. But a lot of the motivation for eating healthy and living healthily really comes from those interpersonal connections. So when you pause each week and you connect with humans, I think you're better recharged to make better health decisions. And I really want to reinforce this from a medical perspective that this actually helps your health.
Absolutely. So one of the things that I think, back to a question you asked me, how have I been able to do what, so many different things and have the family that I have, and I'm a blessed family. We eat dinners together almost every night. That is like sacred. We put our phones away. We talk about what's going on. And guess what? During that whole preparation leading up to that time, my wife and I are in the kitchen. My girls come and help. My son, when he's over with his new wife, we all get involved in that action. And that conversation then leads to, in my opinion, better health because, we're not focused on eating as fast as we can, getting out of the kitchen onto our next digital device. We're actually conversing. We're thinking about, hey, what was your day like? And we're talking about it. And just the act of making food at home, you're going to have a healthier thing on your fork. And the decisions you make specifically on what you put on your fork, are you eating real food, shopping the perimeter of the store, staying away from the aisles, things that you actually have to cook? If you do that as a family, the community is right around the table. And then you start that conversation and you eat, and it's not a race. It's not get done as fast as you can. This is our sacred time to interact. And oh, by the way, we're eating good, healthy food. We're allowing our bodies to digest it. And then most times my wife wants to go for a walk. I go along with her, but we get our body moving because that's how we optimize our metabolism. So, yeah.
And that's another low-tech suggestion from the two doctors on the call, which is about moving. It's very, very healthy to take a walk after dinner. It doesn't have to be this hardcore exercise, but if you should walk after dinner. I'm guilty of not doing it as much as I can, but I want to share that information because it's very, very healthy to get up away from the table, walk away for multiple reasons, for physical health, mental health. If that's just one habit you could pick up from this town hall, that you should take a walk after dinner, please consider that. And for people who are paying attention, who are listening tonight and feeling, I don't really have anyone to share a dinner with, you know what? You can invite someone, even if they're a semi-stranger. That is a really good idea. That is a really good thing to do. It's good for both of you. You'll eat, home cooked food that you've made, and you'll make a new friend. And you know what? If it doesn't work out, it's just one time. You try a different person the following week. But these invitations, they are kind of few and far between in our modern times, right? We're living in pretty disconnected times. But this connection with other humans is incredibly important to your mental health. Back at you, Drew.
Yeah.
Thanks, Dr. Gold. Great points, you guys. Everybody talking tonight is just wonderful. I think we're getting a lot from this information here and just really understanding the importance of just taking a moment. It just means so much. We've had a lot of questions about the faith class at GoldCare, and if it's recorded, can it be accessed at a later time? The answer to that is yes. If you are a GoldCare member, you can absolutely go back and watch all of the past faith classes. You can attend them live, or you can watch them later from your phone, on your computer. You just have to be a GoldCare member to do that. Check out the link in the live stream. Please click to retweet it. We'd love to get this message out there. And let's continue on. Back to you, Dr. Gold.
So, Dr. Flottmann, I think let's back at you. Let's give people some, I don't know, a little bit more hardcore medical information. I love your acronym, the 4 acronyms. Okay, Willie Faith for Bishop Benjamin. But let's just go there a little bit in terms of moving your feet and exercise and the better decisions with. Let's just have at it for a few minutes.
Okay, so let's start with forks. That's pretty easy for me. My recommendation to clients, honestly, more times than not, is to eat things that have less simple carbohydrates. So when you look at your plate, what fills up most of your plate? Is it French fries? Is it rice? Is it potatoes? Is it bread? Well, let's try to minimize those things. I'm an advocate for eating animal source proteins. That's just me. That's where I think we get our most precise amino acid concentration in the tissue. And I think that gives our bodies exactly the concentration that it needs. So I try to focus on a low carb lifestyle, low sugar lifestyle. And I also try to encourage people to adopt an intermittent fast. And you can find that all in the Bible. When things are going wrong, fasting is one of the best methods to fix things. And Bishop Benjamin could probably talk more about that. But I will say from a medical point of view, fasting is one of the greatest ways to reset your immune system, to get rid of your mitochondrial dysfunction. So that's just your fork. And then your feet, for me, I hinted on it earlier, but some kind of press, lift, and squat. I want to engage the big muscles of my body. Why? It helps my body say, hey, I want you to produce hormones. I don't want you to fear the fat on your fork. Cholesterol is needed for all the sex hormones, but I want you to engage the muscles so that your body asks for that hormone production and then uses it. And then for fingers, we already talked on the habits, and we could go all through that. But for me, I try to, if I eat snacks, I try to get higher fat content, like a nut instead of candy. And then I also try to do some coffee personally in the morning. So faith is the last one. And for me, that's how I start my day. I generally get in, and here's going back to community. I'm in a Bible app where we read the Bible over the course of a year. I'm in that with my sisters and my dad, my brother-in-law. And so we interact every morning just by what we've read, what it means to us, and how we can apply that to everyday life, and what's going on in our life that makes us kind of question, how can I do this? So faith is probably the most important. I just don't give that rest like you've hinted on so much, because the rest is really where we restore. Resting, sleeping, that's where all the recovery takes place. I have this little Aura ring, so I track my sleep and I monitor it. And my wife laughs at me because she's like, what did your ring tell you? She goes, I just slept well. And my ring will say, yep, you had good deep REM. You had deep sleep. That's where all the hormone action happens in the REM in the later stages, and I can track it. So I use little tools like that. I hope that answers your question.
Wow, I actually found that super interesting. I'll just say, no, I did. I'll just say a couple more words about intermittent fasting because you said it kind of quickly, but I do think the evidence is unequivocal that periodically, eating less often, making this like your daily habit, there's no question from a medical perspective that this is super healthy for people. It's not as scary as it sounds. If you're like, oh, I could never do that. It's not really true. If you think about the word breakfast, right? It's breaking the fast that you had overnight. So most people, most of the time, you're already doing somewhere close to 12 hours of not eating, right? Let's say 7P to 7A, theoretically. So that's already 12. So if you could push it any more, if you could go 16 hours, is a very common intermittent fasting is 16-8, which means you only eat in 8 hours of the day. So let's say you ate at 11 in the morning and you closed up shop by 7 p.m., for example. Just that one change, that is intermittent fasting, meaning you're going 16 hours of fasting, and maybe you eat something at 11, you maybe eat something at 2, maybe you eat a full dinner. That in and of itself has been proven to be incredibly helpful. The reason is it's actually pretty simple. Every time you put some food in your mouth, it actually kind of spikes your insulin in your body. And that's it. And if you don't put food in your mouth, it doesn't do that. Now, some foods are a lot worse than other foods. Most of us in America, have a real tough time with all the chips that are out there. And those are the simple carbs that Dr. Flottmann is talking about. That spikes your insulin the most. Other food, but they all spike, but those are by far the worst. So what you could do, if let's say you're struggling to get, 16 full hours, if you eat foods that are high in fat, but not carbs, they really spike your insulin much, much less, which is why when I'm hungry, or what I have in my car everywhere, I've got those bags of nuts from Trader Joe's. You probably know what I'm talking about, the little bags, all the different nuts. And I have them everywhere. I have them in my car, I have them in my purse, I have them everywhere. Because if you're hungry and you just take a handful of nuts, it really doesn't spike your insulin very much, almost not at all. So just introduce this idea of intermittent fasting in your life. Just push your first meal back a bit, a couple of hours if you can. In the morning, if you usually eat at 7 or 8, maybe try eating at 9 or 10. Keep pushing it back a little bit, and then try to close up your dinner time around 7, and you've gotten yourself to 16 hours of not eating. That is something you can do that will really help your health without even changing the type of food that you're eating. So just wanted to say a little bit more about intermittent fasting and bridge it over to Bishop Benjamin, because as Dr. Flottmann said, fasting is all over the Bible. Isn't that interesting? Like, it's all over the Bible. So God must have up his sleeve.
It is. Isaiah 58 talks about the fast for Israel. And it's two aspects, of course, the spiritual part and the physical part. So fasting incorporates how you treat each other in the community. It talks about to help the poor, to clothe the naked. This is in Isaiah 58:7, and to cover the naked, and to also take care of your own body, to hide not yourself from your flesh. That means wash yourself, take a bath. That's all part of fasting. But then it says, then shall thy light break forth as the morning. That means there's a glow when you give your intestines a rest from food. There's a glow that comes on your body. And everybody thinks, oh, Moses was up in the mountain 40 days and 40 nights. Yes, he had a superior glow for not eating 40 days and 40 nights. It says his face shone. It almost scared Israel. He had to put a veil on his face. And so it says, thy health shall spring forth speedily. That means certain sicknesses and diseases, when you fast, it's you get healed quicker through fasting. This is Isaiah 58. I'm reading it right here. And thy righteousness shall go before thee, and the glory of the Lord shall be thy reward. In other words, that word reward is asaph. It means together, to assemble. That means God puts things together that's supposed to be messed up, jacked up, tore up from the floor up, need a checkup from the neck up. And God says, I'll be your reward. I'll assemble it. I'll put it together. And that's the effects of fasting. It just, maybe you got a foggy brain, can't think. Fasting takes that fog out. Now you say, oh, I got it. The ideas come together. You think quicker.
That's because the metabolic switch from glucose to ketones. You get that metabolic switch. It's beautiful that's the way we were designed. And he did a great job designing us like that, because we were designed for periods of feast and periods of famine. And when we were in periods of famine, we had to fast because there was no food. And guess what happened? We reflected the image of God because of our glowing skin and our glowing bodies and the way that we felt.
Yeah, I think we're living like in just such miraculously interesting times.
Yeah.
And we're living in times when, you have these things that are written down for hundreds and thousands of years. And then we have all the science that demonstrates beyond any doubt that all this stuff is good for you. It's good for you to eat less often. It's good for you to eat less. It's good for you to, take these periodic breaks. We know, Dr. Flottmann and I know that the types of foods, we're finding out more every day about certain types of diets are helpful for pretty serious diseases. Of course, diabetes is like the first one that jumps to mind, but also cancer, but starving the cancer of glucose, right? It's actually incredible how the body and the spirit are really, really connected. And you see it in the Bible, right? I've always wondered about why these so many fast days. There really are a lot of fast days. I'm just saying, as a girl, like I found it kind of curious. And so I think it's really neat to live in a time when we actually have proof. Because when we grew up, Dr. Flottmann and I, nobody really talked about fasting from a health perspective. Like it was more of a spiritual thing. But now we know for sure that it's very helpful from a health perspective. So I just think that's super interesting. Awesome. Let's see where we are. I lost track a little bit. Any other tips you want to get? Oh, I should say, so we have these amazing classes with Bishop Benjamin on Wednesdays, but we also do nutrition and weight loss classes, because at the end of the day, having a normal, healthy body weight is probably the single variable that matters the most in terms of people's health overall. So we, of course, work with people to try to help them achieve that and teach them, things like intermittent fasting or the best kinds of food to eat and all that good stuff. So we have all of that, of course, at GoldCare. Dr. Flottmann, back at you just for just a few more tips, because I'm sorry, because you were so good.
I like this because you mentioned this earlier, and so did Bishop Benjamin. We have a plethora of providers, right? We have them from all walks of discipline. And what's beautiful about, I think, our platform is that I, as an allopathic trained physician, may not know what's best when it comes to natural remedies, although I'm leaning that way in a lot of my decision making. GoldCare has naturopaths that I can reach out to. I can contact support. I can contact our clinical coordinator and say, hey, I'm talking to Joe Bag of Donuts. They're interested in some natural ways to combat this metabolic disease. I've kind of reached the limit of my expertise. Who can I talk to? And then that client can reach out to that provider based on what I've just said. So I think that gives me an opportunity to just kind of expand the care that I offer to clients through GoldCare. So that's one of the benefits that we have that you don't see every day in a clinic.
I just want to say, we're used to it, but it's so different than how it is in the outer world. I mean, I was a hospital doctor for 25 years, and we never, ever, ever, ever spoke to naturopaths. And even amongst ourselves, in a way, there's a sort of, if it's very fragmented. It's also sort of competitive, like everyone, or territorial, I should say, more than competitive, but territorial. Everyone just saw from their little angle. So just the ability to pull in other people with other expertise is incredibly useful for the patient, for the client, for the member. And then we do, of course, have people who will counsel you and speak with you as well. In addition to classes, we have people focus on that aspect if you need counseling. And I don't know, Doctor, I sometimes, I slip into calling you Doctor. Bishop Benjamin, do you have any just final closing words for our amazing GoldCare community?
Yes, look, GoldCare, we talk about from faith to practical care. It all goes together. And if you are taking the classes, watching the different types of from exercise to health to how to think to how to read the Bible, it's right here at GoldCare. And we're talking about holistic healing. It touches the whole man. And thank you, Dr. Gold, for setting the pace. I think some other places are going to have to catch up because, this is a pace. You are a pace setter. And we need more to understand that the man, the human being is made up of more than just flesh. It's spirit, and it's also mental, soul, and it's body. And so being able to put that tripod being to practical application, I think GoldCare has its hand on the pulse. And so, Dr. Gold, thank you for allowing us to be on the platform and allowing all these different doctors and all kinds and faith people to be on the platform. It just makes sense in the times that we're living in.
I love it. And it's so funny because when we all started coming together, it was always clear to me we'd have to have all of it, right? Because again, just being in the medical world for so long, I could see exactly what was missing. We don't elevate or demote any aspect. So tonight we're actually, obviously we talked a lot about health and just staying healthy, spiritual and mental and, moving your body. But we bring you anything that is based in truth. So there are times you need a medical doctor. I'm proud of my medical training, as like Dr. Flottmann is my allopathic medical training. I know a lot about diseases, a lot about prescription medicines, and sometimes you need that. And so we have all of that. Of course we have that. But a lot of times you don't need that. A lot of times you don't need a doctor who's just, thinking about your liver or just thinking, about your knee, right? You need somebody who's a little bit more holistic or going over or pulling in from every aspect of you to get you to a better place, right? If you are, for example, you've got diabetes type 2, you probably have to lose weight, you probably have to move your body, you probably have to get a bit happier, which means more connected. Like all of those things are connected. You need kind of a holistic approach to get to a better result. So it's always about truth and what the person needs. So we offer all of it, and there's no sense within GoldCare that one is superior to another. We understand that humans are made we have multiple facets, and we therefore want to give you the truth on all of those facets. So I want to thank you tonight. For me, tonight was very meaningful because we don't usually have this kind of conversation. And I just want everybody to really get excited about what GoldCare can do for them in their life. And I think the two of you are perfect ambassadors for the quality that we want to give people and show people. So that's what I've got to wrap up. And unless you've got closing words, those are my thoughts. And I'll just go back to Drew for our closing words.
Thank you, Dr. Gold, Dr. Flottmann, Bishop Benjamin. What a powerful conversation. And you're right, Dr. Gold. It is not a conversation we have often at GoldCare, but it is very important. What we heard this evening is a reminder that renewal is not complicated. It begins when we pause long enough to let God restore what life has drained. The epidemic of exhaustion is real, but it is not the end of your story. Your fatigue is not failure. It is a signal that God is inviting you back into his rhythm of rest and repair. The tools you learned tonight matter. Fingers, forks, feet, and faith, the power of pause, the blueprint for balance. These are not just strategies, they're steps towards honoring the body and the spirit God gave you. As you leave tonight, please remember this. God sees your struggle. He knows the battles that no one else knows about, and he has already prepared the strength you need. When fear tells you that you are too far gone, faith answers that God restores what the world cannot. So hold on to that truth. Renewal is possible, restoration is promised, and the God who designed you for healing is still leading you into a life of balance, peace, and purpose. So hold fast, stay faithful, and trust that the same God who made your body to heal is still in the business of miracles. Don't forget to click the link in the title of tonight's webinar to learn more about GoldCare and join us to get your first appointment on us with our nursing team. Thank you for being with us tonight, and we'll see you at the next GoldCare Medical Town Hall on January 13th. God bless you. Good night.
Do you feel like the healthcare system is failing you? That's because it is, working exactly as intended to prioritize profits, bureaucracy, and big pharma, while leaving you and your family vulnerable when you need care the most. We understand your frustration. You've been asked to trust a system that feels rushed, impersonal, and biased. You deserve better. That's why we created GoldCare. Here, your values matter, your choices matter, and most importantly, you matter. GoldCare is more than a solution. It's a revolution. Trusted by over 10,000 members nationwide, we've built a system that puts your wellness first. With ethical, independent doctors who work for you, not the system, you'll have access to care that's transparent, trustworthy, and aligned with your values. We understand that stepping away from the familiar can feel daunting, but staying in a system that doesn't truly serve you is even harder. That's why GoldCare offers a healthcare alternative designed to work for you. Whether you're ready to step away from the system entirely or prefer to keep your insurance while seeking the transparent care, ethical doctors, and education you deserve, it's time to stop trusting a system that's failed you. Take control of your health with GoldCare. Join today for just $10 a month and become part of the healthcare revolution. GoldCare, built for you, powered by freedom, trusted by thousands.